Hi, my name is Chris Belsky. Um, I'm recording my first video to upload because somehow I didn't realize that last week's assignment was supposed to be also a video, so this is my first shot at this. I interviewed two people. The first one was a guy at my work who I kind of thought would be interesting because we're both fathers, and it was um, mostly along the lines of the same kind of things that I ran into, and our lives are very similar because we both work at the same place. He's comes from a different era, so that was a little bit different. But other than that, it was a lot of the things that we spoke about are the same issues that we have trying to balance life at home and life at work, the hours you have to put in, but also being present at home and things like that. That said, the second interview I did was a little bit more interesting. He was a person that I deployed with. His name is Giovanni. Um, what makes his experience with deployment a little bit more interesting to me, or a little different than mine, was that he is Hispanic, and his experiences with family and maybe coming back into civilian life were a little bit different than mine. So I asked him some of the questions that were um, on the like the provided thing from class, and we did this through text because he lives in Florida. So I took some notes, and he had been a Marine since 2006. I had got in a little bit earlier than him in 2004. Um, and what he said that what does the group do when they meet? He said Marine stuff. So we were in a truck company, so pretty much like convoys and stuff like that. The likes and the dislikes were fairly straightforward, kind of the same thing that I would say. Like the brotherhood. He mentioned like becoming friends with guys that you'd have a lifelong friendship with that you'd probably never meet otherwise. Um, he said like discipline. You learn from the Marine Corps discipline. So he's make your bed, which is like a big thing. I guess a speech was given. What did we dislike or like about this group? Deployments. Definitely hated and loved deployments. Spent a lot of time together. Got to know each other very well in that time frame. And then obviously the bad is he said it destroyed his body. Dealing with VA afterwards, PTSD, and lost friends, but mostly afterwards due to you know, uh, veteran suicide is like a big deal. And it hit guys in our unit kind of hard. Um, Important events, deployments. We both went on a deployment. We both deployed twice together. Once to Iraq, or both times to Iraq, once to Fallujah and once to Ramadi. So that was important events. I have notes. It says connection with others. I'm trying to think of what question that was. If I don't want to go back into my phone, but it pretty much just expands upon that we are still friends, even though he lives in Florida, about 1,000 miles away. The lifelong connections that have grown out of, we spent 4 years together, and it's now almost 20 years later, 15 years later, and we're still connecting. I'm still contacting him to answer questions for a college class. So, I mean, that's important. One of the more interesting things, and I asked him specifically because I know the Marine Corps to be kind of cliquey, kind of like school. So like he was Gio was a little bit different in the sense that he kind of hung out with everybody, because most of the time, um, like, Hispanics tend to hang out with Hispanics, and the Black Marines tend to hang out with Black Marines, and a lot of the times that's kind of what takes place. But for him, it was a little differently, or it happened a little bit differently. So that was one of the more interesting things about that. I'm not sure who he's still friends with from our unit, but he's one of the few that I'm still friends with. So what was interesting to me was I expected kind of a lot more differences, but it really kind of turns out that it's the Marine Corps is universal in some of its experiences. I'm not sure. I didn't really dig too deep in how his re like getting back into civilian life afterwards, or how his VA stuff went, because I didn't really want to go too deep into that. But I would kind of assume that he may not have been as open with some of the things that he was dealing with as I was, because that's just kind of his nature. I'm not sure if that has something to do with the way he was raised in a Hispanic family. I guess they kind of tend to be quieter about that sort of thing, possibly. But yeah, that was very interesting to me. And I figured that maybe his experiences would have been a little bit different than mine, but turns out they're pretty universal. And that's it. Thank you very much if you made it all the way through. Yeah, thank you. Good night.